Well, you are back this week. Dunbar is on sort of a vacation, but yes, welcome back.
Thank you, Joe.
Cool.
Great to be back. Thank you.
And we're gonna start out. I gotta just go off and complain about this for a minute. You're gonna have to carry this podcast because I've been up since midnight.
I can imagine.
One of my coworkers, who is also a friend of yours, Nora, decided for some infinitely genius reason that we should pull like a sort of all-nighter thing. So she scheduled this team event, which of course myself and only a couple people were nuts enough to show up to, at a Lebanese restaurant. So we show up from like midnight to 4 a.m. Shisha, full Lebanese spread,
Whole thing.
Of meal, and I think everybody else at 4 a.m. went back home and went to sleep. I did not. I went right out to coffee. I went right out to the gym, and now I'm here with you to talk more about work, AI, the future. I don't even know what we're going to. Well, I do know what we're going to cover today.
Yeah, but it's a good thing that you have your monster drink.
I do. I forgot to even crack it open at the beginning. I was so sort of excited to get this moving. So let me crack this open.
Let's do it. Yes, that's the sound.
Until they sponsor me.
Yep, soon.
So today's topic, we'll just roll right into this. Oh, wait. No, I did invite you out last night and you did not come.
You did, and I skipped it. I'm too old and already have family.
You and everybody else.
Today. Yeah.
It was myself, Nora, two other people. I convinced our strategy intern to come. I don't think she will ever forgive me for this, but it was hilarious. You just sort of pile in a taxi, you go to this Lebanese restaurant, you have shisha. And again, it was a great conversation.
I'm super jealous.
And it was funny. I thought I was going to show up and just like, okay, I'll be there for an hour and then I'll get out. 3 hours went by like that.
Absolutely.
I want to do it again already.
Was there board games as well in the place?
There was. So it was Al Beiruti on Sheikh Zayed Road.
Yeah.
There are board games. We did not play board games. We just ended up talking.
Just chatting.
Yeah, just talking the whole night apparently.
Nice.
And then, I've been rolling right through and I keep on going till the end of the day. And I was worried this conversation was going to be a little bit slow, but on the way over here, I was jazzed to think about the topic for today. I told you right before we went on the air, but I'm going to tell everybody and then I'll let you take over on some of this.
Let's do it.
In the last week, I have reread a classic rant, this article that has been termed the Steve Yege rant. And it's maybe 10 years old now, but it's about different types of companies and how they can or cannot transform and how they think about themselves. So the rant in itself was about Google and Amazon and what is a platform company versus a services company. You can apply this to what is a services company versus a product company. Sapient is going through this right now with we are a services company. We are starting to build our own products. What that made me think about over the past 6 months of doing this podcast, we have been talking about how companies integrate AI. As Sapient, we get hired to figure out how to integrate AI. What hit me rereading that are any of the companies that are currently trying to become AI companies going to be successful? Because whenever you see a shift like this, it feels like it is always new companies that will figure out how to actually leverage this technology. There is something about stepping back to first principles. 100%. There is something about saying, what is the blank canvas that we have to work with? And they do not bring let's say, the current culture or the current ways of working that a product, services, platform, whatever company that you have where we are bolting on AI, but companies that are starting to think, like, if you want to say true AI native, and I don't want to think of this as companies, I want to think of this as like teenagers, right? Like if I'm a teenager right now, what are the really cool things that I'm starting to think about that in 10 years are going to be the next WhatsApp or the next TikTok or the next whatever that's going to be?
Fair.
Your thoughts?
Well, that's a very interesting shift. Right now, AI as a technology is quite disruptive to everyone. Everyone wants to jump on that bandwagon because they know that they are missing out. If they don't have AI as part of their DNA, they will be left behind. which is almost the same mindset that everyone had in the 90s, in the late 90s, when they said, oh, this internet thing is big. Let's have anything.com and then let's grow fast. But the basics and fundamentals, back to your point about first principles, are the same. You need to build a very good business. You need to understand your customers. You need to understand the demand, your pricing strategy. What exactly are you selling? Who else is selling it? At which price? Which positioning you're having in the market? If you're selling kids' toys or you're selling services for vets and pets, or you are one of the big government authorities, or you are the Talabat or the Kareem of the Middle East, those are completely different businesses with completely different products and services. And AI is not one single solution to everything. You cannot have a magic wand called AI that will work. So definitely you should look at your business and see what are the key things that AI can help me automate, can help me increase efficiency, can help me increase time to market or speed to market or market research activities, and implement exactly that, rather than say we are an AI first company when all you've been doing for the past 20 years is selling shoes or selling kids' toys, right? Stick to the business. So going back to the idea of companies trying to shift themselves, and I call it AI washing. So trying to make themselves look like a new hip AI native, when in reality they've been around as an organization, as a corporate for 20 years or 30 years with the old ways of working. It's a completely different mindset. And whether you're a service company or a product company, those are completely different two business models. In the services companies, you are responsible for the services that you're offering, but you are not in control of everything because you need your demand, you need your clients to get the services done. In product, you are in control about a lot of things, which is basically in your product and taking that product to market. The demand on the other side, the customer needs that you're satisfying, there is a completely different mindset here, because you still need to have data, you still need to do research, you still need to understand what your product positioning looking like. Services, it's a different mindset where after you finish the service, you call it a success. But in product, the product is never done.
Well, and to be clear on this, when I think you and I are talking about services right now, or at least when I said that, I meant companies like Sapient, so professional services, versus like Google or Amazon that provide tech services. So just to disambiguate that.
Fair, yeah.
And again, each one of these companies does have specialties, and it is hard. Like I remember Microsoft had I think it was Microsoft Consulting. They may still have this, right? But I'm like,
but probably they're bolting it on top of Microsoft Azure, for example.
Of course.
Or
what you just said, that services versus product. So I'm going through that right now at Sapient. I've talked about that before on the podcast. We are starting to create and craft our own products, but literally what you said is I don't want to say it's the crux of the matter, because there are so many different cruxi. But the idea that right now, the way that we are building products is like a services company. We have a checklist of features, and we are going through those, like going through 1 to 100 and checking them off and saying, done. And that's what you do when you have a contract with a company as Sapient, right? You go through your 100 features, you say done, you go into a sustained model, whatever that is, versus a true product company that will iterate, that will get customer feedback, that will say, we did features 1 through 20. Now we're going to relook at features 1 through 15 and see how we progress those features. And I think that's one of these critical pieces that when you talk to the organization and you're like, well, how are we going to iterate on this? There's almost this but we did the feature. Yeah. And that mindset shift, I can see that could take a easy 5 years. And the point of me bringing this up is, if you're going through that mind shift, how would that be with AI? Because the thing that I see is we're taking AI and still applying it in the old ways of working, is what you said, right? And I've heard people talk about different different ways that you could totally do the design process, or you could totally do a software delivery process with AI, and you're just rethinking the complete, whether that's agile, whether that's waterfall, whatever that is, probably some new process. I'm super curious now in like, again, 5 years, what is the 17-year-old now in their bedroom cooking up that's going to say, this is a completely different process, this is a different type of way of working, but this is going to be the future?
I think the future is bright for small teams with entrepreneurial skills, business acumen, or at least that grit, who can build and ship things fast in a day or 2 days. And AI is dramatically increasing this potential for that teenager who's sitting in their bedroom. She used to learn Python or learn coding. Now they are using AI to produce an app in a day. And that's great. But of course, this app is not releasable because you still need security, you still need DevOps, you still need to make sure that under the whole big iceberg, the app works at scale.
But I'm going to say an and here. What you are telling me is there are opportunities for new companies to come along and provide these services for singular individuals who want to use Cursor or V0 or Lovable to create an application, don't have that level of security or whatever, data storage, and you can have an opportunity for a company to come up and say, we will supply you with all of that. Right? This is where I think you have so many new opportunities, and I'll give you one more, and then you can hit me back. One of my friends, and I'll call him out because I've been calling him out the last few weeks. One of my old podcast co-hosts, who's out in Amsterdam, he was mentioning to me I don't know if it's a new business model, but he was like, look, you're using all of these tokens, right? You have to sort of buy this token usage. If I'm using, let's say, Figma, and Figma is costing me, $19.99 a month, if I'm burning through $1,000 worth of tokens, how the hell is that working out from a business sense? So is there some sort of business model where it's like a company like ChatGPT or OpenAI, I should say, sells the tokens, and then I can go and spend those tokens on any type of service that I want of these new applications, that all of these new applications are free for me, but they skim a little bit off the top of the tokens, right? So
as long as those applications are wrapping an OpenAI model. So
the
token is the actual currency to use in whichever app or
correct,
SaaS.
Correct. And there could be a variety of ways, who knows, to get these tokens. But like those two ideas were just in the last 5 minutes, completely new business models that could be thought up, where
that's quite interesting.
I just don't think there's going to be a reduction of workforce through this.
No.
I just see an explosion of potential ideas and potential new working models and more excitement.
And the dust will settle in at least 2-3 years. I think everyone will still try to figure out what's going on and how to use and how to monetize all this AI revolution we're living through right now. But within the next probably 24 to 36 months, we will figure out that, okay, this is how we're going to use this model. Probably earlier. The problem here right now is in the region, here in Dubai and probably around GCC, the business model, I want to circle back to the services versus product companies.
We can come back to it. Go for it.
The business model, the RFPs, the features list, the time and material kind of engagement, it doesn't allow for experimentation, doesn't allow for product thinking, it doesn't allow for people to ship the feature and then see how it works and then iterate for it.
Correct. It is a one and done.
It's one and done kind of business model. But that's not how you build products. And as you said, for example, if we have 1,000 token to try this out and we have used this feature in an MVP group, small sample, and it's actually working, but well, we finished our billable hours and the contract is done. How are you going to scale it? How are you going to take it to the market? How are you going to iterate on it? So there is a lot of things that the current way of building software as a services company, the business model, the RFP process needs to change because it doesn't allow for that product and AI first and experimentation mindset.
You've been living here a lot longer. than I have. And now this is why I love it. Because you were saying, where do you want to go with this conversation? Before we went on the air, we had this whole idea of talking about products and services. Now I want to talk about like, how are they thinking about education in the Middle East? Because what you just said, I think, is a byproduct of bringing workforces and expats in and paying for them versus homegrown talent. Right? If you have homegrown talent and you hire engineers and design teams in-house, I think that's where you begin to think about things from a product mindset.
100%.
As long as you continue to vend out your engineering, your experience teams, your QA, product, everything, right? And you just keep your business and sales organizations, you are always going to be putting yourself in I need features 1 through 100.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, when I see things like the UAE opening tons of new schools for, like, most of the time I see them open for like middle school, high school, things like that, where they're really focused on education for people who live here, whether that is Emiratis or whether that is expats who have, been born here, grew up here.
Yeah.
Right. And I see the same thing sort of happening in Saudi. I think that's where that changeover occurs. I don't think that changeover can happen as long as you are continuing to import talent.
Especially when this talent stays for 4 or 5 years and then leave.
In and out. Yeah. And everybody comes here from a transitory mindset, right? Yeah. Like people like me. Like at first I was going to be here for 2 years. Now I'm like 4 years. Maybe that's going to turn into 8 years. Who knows? Or 10 years. But yeah, I think you're right, is when you come in and churn out, you can never... You don't think about iteration. You think about
longevity.
getting in and getting out. Yeah.
Yeah. The longevity of talents and how they are, by proximity, increasing the maturity of the organizations they work at. For example, you bring a lot of really great people from Europe, Australia, Silicon Valley, and they take a company forward, and 3 years in, few of them leave, and then the company goes back to the old ways of working, and then they say, we want to hire a consultancy, or we want to bring people to help us with digital transformation, and it starts to be murky. The future, I think, if a company is serious about being a product company, they should never outsource that. They should hire product people
I
or
agree.
upskill their people to be product first people.
100%. And look, I work in an industry where I literally make my paycheck off people hiring me.
Yeah.
But I am 100% with you. If you are serious about building your own products and those products making a real difference in the world, in the market, you hire internal.
100%.
Because you have people who have to care about things. And I do care about the client products that I work with. But I also know that I'm on like borrowed time in that case, right? There is a contract that is coming to an end, and I may get shipped off somewhere else, right? It's like some sort of military deployment that I'm in this area and I'll get shipped over to some area if somebody wants to pay more.
Yep.
And just by default, it makes me keep my skills really high because I have to be sellable at all times. However, the amount of emotional investment that you have in something. And I remember working at Microsoft, and when you shipped something, it was this moment of pride that you had. And I 100% agree with that. And so I'm going to bring these two topics together. So what you just said, how do you think about building a product company when most companies here are sort of, a core, and then they hire in the rest from services companies like Sapient, McKinsey, Deloitte, Tata Consulting.
Yeah.
Moving from that type of company to a product company is a shift. Moving from, like Sapient, a professional services company, to a product company is a shift. Moving from any type of company right now to an AI company, like an AI native company, is a shift. And I wonder... what you just said, the dust will settle in 2 or 3 years. I think it'll take longer. I wonder how different the landscape will look. How I will phrase this is the changeover from like 2007, 2008 to, let's say, 2013, 2014, when mobile really exploded after the iPhone, the App Store, Android App Store. And you had all of these new companies come up that were mobile first.
Yes.
So in that case, you still have the hyperscalers, right? Microsoft, Amazon, Google. I think those are going to stay.
100%.
But how many others are going to survive this changeover because changing your core DNA is so damn hard.
Absolutely. And changing the people in the organization that are stuck in the old ways, that's even harder. And it will take a big shift. And I think, probably within the next couple of years, you will see a lot of new companies coming in against the incumbents. And they are trying to do new ways of working that is giving them a run for their money in a way. But if those old companies are not quick and agile and very nimble to change their mindsets, to change their ways of working, to change their teams and their old ways of doing things, I don't think they will survive. In terms of business models, we're still exploring this big machine that's called AI, how we're going to use it. But the end result is the hyperscalers are always going to stay, because they are not only first movers advantage, but they have the data sets and they have the hardware to train those data sets and their AI algorithms. So probably you'll see a lot of mergers, and probably it will come down to 3-4 models. A couple of them might be open source, but it will stay for the next 2 years. That's my bet.
Let me throw this into you. So, okay, so we have sort of what I would call the electricity companies, the utility companies of Amazon, Google, Microsoft. Of course, they are more than that. And you said they're going to stick around, but all of a sudden you have Perplexity, OpenAI.
Apple might buy Perplexity.
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah. And so you have Microsoft with OpenAI, and so you see these sort of things connected. But you could also see that these new companies could be the front door for sort of all interactions, right? Like OpenAI or any of these, Perplexity could become the new Windows type of platform. And so I start to think like, are the big companies going to be around in the same way? And what starts to create value, right? Like I want to say like, okay, is Netflix going to stay around? Well, it's all about then the copyright and the control and what you have for the content, and like how do those dynamics shift over time? And I have not put enough thought into that to answer that, because that's a
maybe it depends on the core job to be done that this company is serving. So for example, Netflix, it's about entertainment. Regardless if I'm using an AI first algorithm for personalization or not, they are in the business of serving content on TV. If you are Amazon, they are in the business of convenience. You're not going to the mall to buy your shoes anymore, or to buy your stuff from that retail place. You are getting it through Amazon. So the way they are using AI probably in that retail and warehouse and supply chain perspective is more on efficiency, robotics, warehouse management, and all that. So they are applying the AI on the core problems they're having in their business, but the core job to be done they're serving has nothing to do with AI.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Oh, where was I just going to go with this? Okay, wait. Amazon, back up for a second.
Netflix, job to be done.
So the Meta AI application where all of the videos are AI, that's your sort of next Netflix, right? It's the company that comes up with all AI content just for you. So it's like think of TikTok, but all of it's AI. God knows that's getting to be more and more of TikTok at the moment, which even sometimes I get fooled by it a little bit. But maybe that's the thing is copyright starts to completely fall apart when you can just create things on the fly.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we've had, myself and Dunbar have had like a running conversation about why do we seek out, human created content versus AI created content. But it's an interesting one to think about, that what happens when copyright has no more control or claim to what you're creating. And at the same time, does that make human-made content more valuable, right? Does that make, like, if I go back to things like Nomadland or documentaries or something like that about real people more powerful? Is there some sort of just separation or dichotomy there?
Yeah. Well, that's quite an interesting thought. And
I was that one out.
I was trying to put myself in the shoes of someone sitting in front of the TV and well, if I'm watching Netflix, it keeps serving me AI generated content based on my preferences, if I like action movies or something. So it's creating this action movie on the fly. Okay, but that action movie is probably a remake of all the action movies that we have always seen. So it has been trained on how humans created action movies in the past. So in terms of storytelling, in terms of the arc, in terms of the finale, in terms of the build-up and the hero's journey of that movie, probably it's going to be a remake of something that I might have already watched before. Or it can be very creative and wows me in terms of that movie. But how many times is it going to come up with something original?
I think you already said something that I'm going to throw right back in
Yeah.
your face, which is when I sit down in front of the TV, how many go to your teenage group now, your early 20s, how many people are sitting down in front of the TV, right, to
Fair.
watch their content? And what will that change happen, right, if I get all my content through, let's say, my phone or some sort of screen device or
Yeah.
some sort of glasses device or some sort of audio device? I just think there's so much out there.
In terms of long form and short form. Those are two different things.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I'm wondering if long form has a place anymore.
Probably.
Or what does long form mean, right? Because even when you look at something like Avengers, which is a very long movie, right? Like whatever that is, 2.5 hours for Endgame and
Yeah.
what was it, Infinity Wars? But it was like all the scenes are action, 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 action,
Yeah.
action, right? And so you're like, okay, yes, it is long form, but it's not like something that you would have seen back in the 90s where it is just a movie that really has a level of pacing to it that people now would struggle with.
Yeah. And something interesting that came out a few years ago, which is the dynamic storytelling. So for example, the hero has just entered the room and then a pop-up or a prompt saying, do you want them to do this or do that? Do you want them to open this door or open that door? And there is a sub story behind each one of those doors. I think the future on this dynamic real-time generation will happen, as well as the gaming industry. There is huge opportunity in the gaming where you explore worlds on the fly in real time.
Yeah. So what you just said, when you were talking about the hero's journey, do you pick door number 1 or door number 2? I was thinking the first thing I went to is Twitch. Again,
Yes.
I love it. And you're watching somebody play a game or do something, but at that point you can interact with that person and sort of, control what they're doing. If there's an interview, right? Like, oh, chat is asking this question. Let me ask it to the person. And you could get this whole level of interaction, which again, there's so much there with interactive media,
100%.
interactive content. I want to take it back to the products and services side.
Yeah.
Because I know we wanted to tackle that. I know we only have like 5 or 10 minutes left. Is there a particular place you want to continue to go with that?
I would love for people to recognize that product-based companies are totally different from services-based companies. And it goes back to the business model. If the product is the brand, then the product people should be all in-house, should be very high class, very high maturity product people building this product, because the product is the brand. For example, if, let's say, ChatGPT, the product is the brand,
Well,
right? You're making money out of the product. There is no other way around the product that you're making money from. But for example, Talabat or Kareem or Amazon, you're making money from a lot of other places.
Oh, so now, when you say services now, you're not talking about like the Sapient services, but rather,
Yes.
okay, got it. Yes.
But rather the business model
Yes,
itself,
yes,
how
okay.
how the business model works in terms of cost efficiency, logistics,
Yes.
warehousing, riders, delivery. All this is part of the money-making machine. It's not only the product, right? In terms of servicing, if we want to jump back to the digital services, management consultancies, digital consultancies, companies like Sapient, the Big Fours, and others, they are hired to do one job and one job only to help their clients achieve an outcome or to build something on behalf of the client. But by definition, the contract is going to be finished. And anything that's outside that contract will be a CR.
Yep. That's a change request for
Exchange
people who are
request.
not familiar. Yes.
Exactly. And everything in a product is a CR. Everything is a change request.
Well,
when you launch a feature and it doesn't work, you have to change it.
But it's like your job in a product company is to figure out what all the change requests
Exactly.
are, because the change requests are what makes success.
100%.
Right? Versus when you're Sapient, the change requests are what get you into arguments with the client.
Yeah.
So they're like, why do you want us to spend more money? Why didn't you design it right the first time? And you're like, well, hey, look, man, iteration.
Yeah, and also the SOW, the scope of work, is saying that you're going to deliver X. Why are you telling me that we're delivering Y instead of X? That I've hired you to deliver this thing for me. So
it's the fixed mindset versus the more agile mindset.
The more product first mindset.
Yeah, when you're at Sapient, you get a contract, it's going to be fixed, right? But when you're a product, it's like, what's the goal that we have?
Yep.
And what are the features that are needed to achieve that goal? And we can adjust those as we go.
100%. And also, I would like to go on a rant in terms of digital transformation and CX. So those are two different rants. But for example, if I hire someone to do digital transformation, okay, that's great. But that person needs to help me elevate my team, elevate my processes, and make sure that I am there, and also help me hire, which is great, which is something that a lot of companies really do well. But the mindset here is that person should have a skin in the game. So the idea of digital transformation, because by definition it's called transformation, it's a journey. You cannot have it in a fixed contract of a year or 2 years. You need to frame it as a retainer, as flexible scope rather than fixed scope, and with the end goals in mind, and you have a skin in the game in those end goals. The other thing is the CX and customer experience departments in companies where people are hired to build a CX team. If you have a team that's responsible for customer experience, does that mean that all other teams are not responsible for customer experience? It's
that's such
by
a good
definition,
one.
you're scoping them out.
I always hated companies that were like, this is our innovation org. I'm like, by default, you're telling me that nobody else is innovative. Within your company?
Exactly.
Like, good God, like, no. They're like, well, that's the org where we test and fail things. I'm like, no, that like the entire company should have this mindset of like, what are we doing to progress? Don't have fear in that, right? That's how you're overcoming these boundaries. Yes, 100%.
100%.
Okay, so question for you. With companies, again, you go back to McKinsey, Sapient, those ones have bigger names.
Yeah.
Right. What I'm wondering is once I get to know clients, oftentimes they come back to Sapient for the people, right? They are buying, let's say, me or other sort of leadership people who they have formed relationships with. I wonder if I look 5 or 10 years in the future, could I do something at the same level of Sapient with a team of 10 people with a lot of AI working, and what would that brand need to look like, or what would that brand need to encompass? And that's why I'm asking that is I do follow a few people on TikTok, on Instagram, who are just singular individuals, but they have massive following, and they do consulting essentially, 100%. And they're not doing AI. A lot of times they're doing like teaching, presentation, but with all of these new tools coming up, I think what's to stop somebody like me having that same elevated brand as a McKinsey, as a Sapient, if I'm putting out content and I can do consulting at that same level with a very small team and a great set of AI tools.
Yeah. 100%, and that's exactly.
I need to be working on my brand, is what I'm. Okay. What am I doing?
Your personal brand, but also because you're very experienced, you have a lot of war scars, and you understand a lot of business problems and how to apply solutions, AI included, to those problems. You're going to survive wherever you go. But also in terms of the business itself, I don't think the future is for big teams, bloated teams. I think having 10 people is a sweet spot, because that's usually the number, a magical number where a team feels like a team. Once you start surpassing 12 or 13 people, it starts to divide into few other teams. And I was having this discussion with my team at 10x. We were saying, okay, when we grow, because right now we are a nimble team, very small.
Yeah.
The idea about 10x is you will always need a 10x person way better than having 5 or 4 average people.
Yeah, classic thing. It's like the top 20% basically do all the work. Or
Exactly.
Whatever that is.
And when you arm that 10x person, regardless of their specialty, product, research, design, when you arm that person with tools, great tools like AI, so you are 10xing that already 10x person. I think the future is for those people. And the end game is to get them like commandos or Navy SEALs. Get them to do the thing, transform the thing, and then leave. But also one of the missions that I think all consultants should be doing, we're definitely doing it in my team, is go in with the mindset of we're going to leave you at some point. We're here to build capability. We're not here to renew the contracts. I want to help you hire the right people. So to the point that we actually literally write job descriptions for people that we will hire for our clients that are going to replace our teams. And that mindset not only breeds trust, but also it makes the client better on the long term. Because the minute you leave, for example, if Sapient left the project after 1 year or 2 years, the lost knowledge, the lost expertise will be handed over to the client. So the client team will say, okay, those guys delivered this thing and we have no idea how to take it from there. Let's not touch it. Let's make it working. Let's not iterate on it. Or let's bring them back again to iterate on it. And that's usually the friction on that fixed mindset, fixed time and material kind of engagements. Building a team and maturing the team and teaching the team is the way forward. But using a very small, nimble, solid people, when you mention 10x people or 10 people in your team, I think that's a sweet spot.
Here's how I'm going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
We have talked about so many opportunities, and it seems like so many times all I'm seeing on LinkedIn these days are like the death of this or the death of, and you're like,
so stupid.
There is so much opportunity out there that I am struggling when people sort of have this fear versus, and I think the fear comes from whether that's pessimism or whether that's the desire to maybe not engage with, new things. But it's the future is written by optimists, essentially. Yeah. If you look at it that way, there's just a ton of opportunity. There's a ton of new things. And what you just said, I think there are some things, since I work on the product org at Sapient, where we're building our own products, that I need to take back as well. And what you just said made me think about one of them, which we still have a services mindset of like, okay, this person will be on the product for like 3 months or 6 months. And what I just wrote down was like, no, if we're building a product org, these people need to be there for good.
Absolutely.
Right? And they need to come on knowing that they are there for good for this product. They are not going to get swapped out.
Absolutely.
Because it is all about the mindset that you walk in with for that. Anything you want to say to wrap us up?
To the point that you were talking about in terms of death to this, or the future is dark. I think the future is very bright for people who are confident in their skills and also adaptable in their mindset. If AI is taking away part of your role or part of your skill, or Figma Make is producing really great wireframes, use that to your advantage. Don't treat AI as a competition, because that's a very insecure way of seeing things, but rather use it to your advantage.
You lose one skill, but there's 9 others that you can go out there
100%.
and learn. It is just that drive and that desire to do that.
100%.
Robert, it's been great to have you here.
Thank you, Joe.
It's been, great conversation. Time flew by.
Absolutely.
And when Dunbar gets back, we need to get all 3 of us together.
We'd love to.
We keep flipping back and forth.
Yeah.
But I will talk to you hopefully again in the next coming weeks.
Looking forward to it, Joe. Thank you very much. Great to be here.